What's up, everybody? The fear that I have had for about a year plus now, ever since the rumblings of Jon Jones versus Stipe Miocic being a possibility to then a fight being announced, it is becoming more and more clear that Jon Jones and Tom Aspinall, it's never happening, man. This fight is never happening. And look, we do not have 100% confirmation, obviously, that this is not ever going to happen. But this comment that Jon Jones has just recently left on social media, this is so telling. Now, I do need to gloat for a second, all right? And I can't figure out if I'm a guy that likes to sit up here and say, I told you so or not. But if you've been following my channel, for an extended period of time here, you have heard me say for months and months and months now, Jon Jones versus Stipe Miocic is a retirement fight for both guys. Not just Stipe Miocic, Jon Jones as well. Jon has known this entire time, as well as I believe possibly Dana may even know this, he just won't say it, that Jon is going to fight Stipe and then ride off into the sunset. Now, here's the comment that Jon Jones left on social media here. So first of all, this guy takes a dig at Jon Jones and says, fun fact, Jon wasn't playing. He thought that was his wife. I mean, that's a pretty wild comment. And then Jon replies and says, fun fact, after this year, Jon Jones will never have to work again, retired at age 37, winning. Now you may say, oh, well, when he's 37 years of age. Guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Jon Jones is currently 37 years of age. Now, Tom Aspinall he's been out here defending an interim belt. This guy's been waiting in the wings, has been calling for this Jon Jones fight, and this just goes to show just some of the stuff that's been going on in the UFC that just boils my blood and frustrates me to no end. I'm trying not to get mad in this video because I hate when I'm right when it comes to something like this. I don't take pride in being like, I told you, we ain't getting Aspinall versus Jones, dog. I told you. Like, no, that pisses me off because we have a young guy in Tom Aspinall out here who is fighting on short notice against Sergey Pavlovich to save a card that Jon Jones and Stipe had to be pulled off of because of a Jon Jones injury. I mean, if you get hurt, you get hurt. I get it. But Aspinall steps in there, and Pavlovich stepped up on short notice as well. We get that fight. And Aspinall goes out there and starches the guy who at the time had probably the most aura in the heavyweight division. Sergey Pavlovich was the fridge. I mean, he was a terrifying menace at heavyweight where everyone seemed to be dodging this guy like the plague. Aspinall goes out there, starches him in the first round, and wins the interim belt. And the UFC had the audacity to make Tom Aspinall defend an interim title in his home country at UFC 304 against Curtis Blades. I mean, maybe I'm just like being a little ridiculous. Is that not one of the most insulting things that's ever happened in UFC history? Now, look, I know Tom Aspinall's bank account is probably not thinking that it's insulting, but from the dynamic of this, I mean, when the hell have we ever seen a guy win an interim belt and have to still go out there, defend an interim belt, and have to fight for the opportunity to fight for the actual title? I mean, just don't have an interim belt then at this point. I mean, this is a disaster on the end of the UFC. This is a disaster for fight fans, in my opinion, because please comment below if you are lining up at the door. You cannot wait to watch a Stipe Miocic who has not fought in the UFC since the Venom fight kits. It has been that long since we have seen Stipe Miocic in the UFC. It has been that long, ladies and gentlemen. Look, I really like Stipe. I think he seems like a very fun guy. He almost just seems like the dad of the UFC. Like, Stipe just seems like a great dude. Like, I'm not trying to shit on the guy. It's just the fact that the facts are the facts. Like, is he one of the greatest, if not the greatest heavyweight of all time? Sure he is. But Stipe hasn't fought in fucking 4 years. And this guy, his most recent outing, which was that long ago, is in the Apex getting flatlined by Francis Ngannou to where the fight, it was just, I mean, Ngannou stuffing takedowns, keeping the fight on the feet, lands a nasty shot and puts Stipe out. And to keep in mind in that fight, that's when Stipe had bedhead. I don't know if he was sleeping in the back before he came out there. His hair was sticking straight up in the air, kind of like mine. I shouldn't be talking. But that's the last memory we have of Stipe Miocic. And then I see pad work, going around of Stipe recently hitting the pads. He looks stiff and old. He looks stiff and old, and this is a guy that we're going to throw in there against Jon Jones for the first title defense of Jon Jones's career up at heavyweight after going out there and running through Sealgan, which, make no mistake about it, it was beyond impressive. Anyone that says it was not impressive, you're just a Jon Jones hater. You got to be a fight fan first. What Jon did to Sealgan was beyond impressive. To take off and that's what pisses me the hell off about Jon, is this guy cannot train, not fight for years, come in there and beat some of the best guys in the world, which it's like, that is why we need Jon versus Aspinall. And I'm not one of those guys. I've been up here saying time and time again, I think Jon can beat Tom. Everyone that's like, oh, Tom's just going to run through him. He's a nightmare matchup. Is he a bad matchup for Jon? Absolutely, because Tom has good grappling. He's powerful. He moves really well. He's got good boxing. And from what we've seen from Jon in the past, what gives him trouble, guys with good footwork, good timing, and outstanding boxing, because that is the biggest weakness of Jon, is the power in the hands. He doesn't really have any, and his boxing is not particularly good. But Jon's grappling is some of the best that we have ever seen, and his ground and pound is vicious. He's got really good submissions. He has good kicks. He has a very good way of finding a way to win a fight no matter what, whether it's close, whether it's whatever. I know at light heavyweight there were some decisions that are questionable, like when Dominic Reyes beat him. Like we've had some things here and there. But a focused, dialed-in Jon Jones is one of the best, if not the best fighter of all time. Like, if you're a fight fan, like, you have to acknowledge that. Tom Aspinall and Jon Jones should be the fight that is happening in November this year. If that's when Jon Jones is returning, it should absolutely be Aspinall versus Jon Jones. Unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, if you have been watching my channel, you knew not to get your hopes up. You knew not to get your hopes up. And look, when it came to Max Holloway, up there getting the fight, a possibility of him and Topuria, which was announced, I got my hopes up through the roof for that fight. I'm like, look, the UFC is going to make this, and they're going to, these two guys are in their primes and this and that. But with the Jon one, I'm like, hold on, pump the brakes, because Jon is getting up there in age. He's been incredibly inactive. Think about this right now before we end this video. Jon Jones took 3 years off to go up to heavyweight. He comes in there, beats Sealgan impressively fast, submits him, takes basically no damage. I mean, he just walked through him. You would have never have known that Sealgan was a high-level fighter in the division, and he is. Anyone that shits on Gon, I mean, it's kind of easy to shit on Duck Gon at this point, but he's still a outstanding fighter, and Jon ran right through him in his heavyweight debut. Takes 3 years off and does that, but here we are once again. Jon Jones taking, 2 years now? Even if he does return in November, that's what it sounds like he's going to be returning in, and 37 years of age. I mean, is this the end? I think that this is the end. I think he goes out there, he fights Stipe Miocic, he defends the title, because I think Jon will beat Stipe, and they both retire in the octagon, and now we have a vacant heavyweight title where Tom Aspinall has been the interim for, I think Tom Aspinall will go down as the longest reigning interim champion in UFC history, which is it's just disgraceful. Don't put an interim belt on the line if you're going to have a guy defend an interim belt. I mean, the way that all went down, where Buffer's out there, I can't remember the exact wording, but Ann's still the interim champion, just disgraceful, poorly handled by the UFC. And again, I love the UFC. They provide, in my opinion, the best realm of combat sports on the planet. I mean, I like One Championship Muay Thai, but when it comes to overall entertainment, promotion, everything, the UFC is the best at what they do. I never question that. But what I do question is the way that they have handled some of these situations, because fumbling Aspinall versus Jon, the fight fans want to see this. I think it's the biggest fight in the UFC in terms of pay-per-view sales, in terms of, I mean, I know Conor McGregor's a name that is always going to be a big ticket anytime he fights, but I think Jon Jones versus Tom Aspinall is, outside of, I know Topuria and Holloway excites fight fans, but in terms of a big fight feel, craziness to where it's like you got the diehard Jon Jones fans, you got the diehard Tom Aspinall fans are clashing, and it's like we have you have the best, fighter of all time, basically, according to a lot of people, and then you have, just a incredible heavyweight of the likes that we just haven't seen, where Aspinall tends to fatigue in fights, Jon has the grappling, but Aspinall has the boxing, and it's like, well, what happens? I don't think we ever see it. But I don't want to end the video on a negative note. While I don't think this fight ever happens, and I've been saying I don't think it happens, I do really believe that we will see Tom Aspinall versus Alex Poatan Pineda at heavyweight at some point. So I will go a step further before we close. I think Jon Jones fights Stipe Miocic in November. They both retire. We have a vacant heavyweight title. into which Alex Poatan Pineda has not been booked to defend the title. Remember, Magomed Ankalaev was just booked to fight Alexander Rakic, and everyone's like, it should have been Magomed Ankalaev. It should have been Magomed Ankalaev. The UFC sometimes, yes, they do scramble and they don't have their shit together and they just kind of fly by the seat of their pants. But in a situation like this, is it possible Dana White and the UFC, like I told you, and I said in the beginning of the video, have known that John intends on retiring after this fight, and their plan is to have Tom Aspinall versus Alex Pineda for the vacant heavyweight title when both of those guys decide to retire in November? Because remember, Tom Aspinall even said recently, Dana White has even said, and Alex Pineda has even said, a fight for the actual heavyweight title, not for the interim heavyweight title. I mean, Jesus Christ, we can't have Tom Aspinall defending an interim heavyweight title where Alex Pineda is going up to become a double champ and become the, say Alex won, he'd be the light heavyweight champ and then the interim heavyweight champ. Like, what the fuck? Like, no. So he's going to be waiting. I think the UFC is having that in the wings. I believe that that's why Alex Pineda is not defending the title against Magomed Ankalaev. They gave Ankalaev a fight to keep him busy, to keep him active, a fight that he should win, so he will be in the wings to fight next for the light heavyweight title. I think that this is the plan behind the scenes for the UFC. Now, am I stretching? I'm taking an educated guess here. Nothing is confirmed. We don't have a lot of details. This is just my thoughts, man. But if you enjoyed this video, give it a like, comment your thoughts down below, because like I said, I want to hear from you guys on this, because I hate when I'm right in this kind of regard, but or looks like I'm going to be right. Subscribe to the channel, help your boy out. I would appreciate it. See you next time.